I think that's okay. Okay, okay, welcome to Dremels. Today we're gonna talk about the relationship between governments and companies. Well, that's because an article published by Financial Times. So let's start talking about them. How governments work and how companies work when there is an interaction between them. The first thing that we need to know first is that governments and companies um, have to interact each others in order to take good decisions, in order to provide better services, and in order to interact, and obviously in order to benefit from each other. Okay, governments from around the world works with companies. Sometimes they interact. They try to promote businesses in their country in order to provide good services, in order to provide good products to the citizens that really need them. So at the same time, companies need from governments because governments make some rules. They give all the pieces. They provide rules. They provide informations, and also companies have to know that rules, that informations, in order to work hand by hand with their competitors. But how governments act when companies take decisions uh, around the world? For example, if a company wants to launch a new product in that country, in any country that they are operating, obviously the government is going to intervene. They will ask the companies, how is your product? Uh, who are the benefits of the consumption of the products? How the products will affect the citizens? How the product will benefit the population that you are working on that. So this kind of information are going to this kind of information the government is going to ask. So companies need to provide those kind of information to the governments. And once the information is received, government has to take a decision. For example, if the product of the services is not enough, or it's bad, or doesn't make sense for citizens' health, in some way it affects the health, it affects the security, or it affects in some way in bad way to the country. So governments will take decisions like banning or prohibiting the sale of that product that the company wants to launch. So this is the first thing that we need to know, that governments and companies are working hand by hand. If you have a company and you want to work in any country, and you want your product or you want your service, it has to be related with what the government is looking in his plan. Could be in health, in security. If in some way your product or your services is going to affect in bad way the goals that the government has, for example, in health, to provide good health that cannot damage people. So it depends of what the government is looking for its citizens. So companies need to work hand by hand with governments. For example, there is a good example here on Facebook. Facebook wants to launch their own cryptocurrency. That is a digital currency. Okay, in the US, obviously. But lawmakers, people who make laws in the US, in this case, like laws are made by the Congress. In this case, political lawmakers needs to. So there are some lawmakers who want to prohibit that plan, that Facebook's plan, because it can affect. The first thing that they argue that is going to affect the banking system. It's going to affect security. It's going to affect information that now is so. It's so important nowadays because information has the power to do many things, and if according to the lawmakers, the Facebook's plans to create a cryptocurrency is going to affect people's information in the US. Is going to in some way enhance some bad things are going to happen if the cryptocurrency is launched. But Facebook, as a company, has their own. They have different arguments for its plan. They say that it won't affect people's information. It won't affect a banking system. Obviously, on the other hand, it's the plan to create a cryptocurrency is going to benefit people. It's going to benefit the way people share money and exchange money. If people says if you don't, you are creating problems and not for my company. You are putting barriers for development of digital systems. So the word innovations, according to your arguments, is not prevalent. So in some way you are not taking your role. It says Facebook obviously rejects lawmaker demands to halt cryptocurrency because it is on its plan. Now, its plan is to create a new digital payment systems in order to benefit the users who use obviously Facebook. So this is gonna be obviously an interest in the side of Facebook, and obviously interest on the side of the society, in the side of the government. So obviously the interest on users, in this case Facebook, is to create better experience on its user, right? But what the government says, that no, you will affect the banking system, you will affect the society, you will affect the payment system that is applied in the country, in this case the US. So always we are going to have interest in both sides, company sides and government side. So the first thing that we need to consider here is that both sides have to interact each other without affecting in a negative way to the partner. It is a good plan when the company and the and governments work in the same interest. Obviously, if you have different interests from the government, it's better to place your business in other location, in another place that you find the same interests. So obviously the interests change among countries, among companies. Obviously we are different, but we have to find similitudes in between governments and companies to have to take good decisions, to have better plan, to increase the way we manage our company, to increase, to provide better services to people without affecting any of the interests that companies and governments have around the world. So okay, it was the case of Facebook. For example, how the US is in some way trying to not necessarily putting barriers, not necessarily stopping Facebook plans. I think the lawmakers in the US are trying to get enough information, and Facebook needs to provide that information with evidence, with resources, with those kind of information who can help Facebook to run its plans. And obviously lawmakers are trying to obtain that kind of information to ensure that the plans of Facebook is not going to affect citizens and banking system in that country. So the thing is that that when we share plans and information that is going to benefit us, it will be okay. So obviously the interaction between companies and governments, it's debatable, but the first thing that we need to know is that they need to work hand by hand in order to reach their goals. Okay, it was the article that we wanted to share with you today, and it was Dremels. Let's see you in another episode. Thank you so much.